Welcome to The Functional Esthetician, a podcast where skin health meets whole body wellness. I'm Samantha Dunch, a licensed esthetician, owner of Skin Deep Aesthetics, author, and a doctor of functional medicine. My mission is to help you see the bigger picture because healthy skin starts from within. In each episode, we'll explore the gut-skin axis, hormones, nutrition, skincare, and wellness tools you can use to transform your skin. Welcome to the Functional Esthetician Podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Dunch. Today's special guest is Moyra Gorski, a wellness advocate. We are going to talk about menopause and healthy aging. Before we get to today's interview, let me introduce Moyra. Moyra Gorski is a podcaster, wellness expert, and passionate entrepreneur dedicated to helping women live vibrant, healthy, and purposeful lives. A retired RN and breast cancer survivor, she inspires others to take charge of their health and find joy through simple, sustainable habits. As the host of Your Journey to Joy podcast and a longtime wellness advocate, Moyra empowers women through education, community, and natural solutions for the body, mind, and spirit. A resident of Geneva, Illinois, she finds joy in ballroom dancing, journaling, baking, and time with her family and dog Ruby. Hi, Moyra. Welcome to the Functional Esthetician Podcast.
Hi, Samantha. How are you? So glad to be here today.
I'm excited for our conversation today.
I am as well. It's a good one. It will be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. I'm going to have you start by introducing yourself. Share a little bit about your background, how you got started, and how you got to where you are today.
Well, my background is in nursing. I have a bachelor's in nursing and worked for a little bit in nursing right out of college and moved into medical sales. But I was always involved with the hospital and working with a lot of patients in the rehab setting, paraplegics, quadriplegics, and then special services that those patients needed. For my 20s, that's what I did. And then I met my husband late in my 20s and got married and went back to work for a little bit, but we decided to put my career on hold and see if we could start a family and build a family and have me at home. That's what we did. Now, 33 years later, just celebrated our 33-year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 4 children and lots of fun things throughout those 33 years. As it would be, my oldest son was kind of sick all the time. If anybody was going to be sick or bothered by something, it was Paul. And he's a great kid. But I mean, he just was. And I think some people can relate to that. You know, there's always like a sickly child or somebody that's got behavior issues or things like that. And so some friends had started to make some suggestions of just some alternative things that I might want to try with him. Now, this is 25 years ago, and things like a chiropractor who could help with his allergies didn't really make sense to me. Change my laundry detergent because that might help him sleep better. These were all things that just were so foreign to me because they were different than what I had learned. But I was a concerned mom of a child, and the doctor at that time, the pediatrician, said, well, give him Claritin prophylactically every day. And I knew that didn't make sense to me either. So I started to just kind of be open to these suggestions that my friends made me, as well as even a soccer coach told me about a homeopath that he had worked with that helped him with his allergies. And as much as I was so skeptical about any type of natural alternative things, because it's so unregulated, it just felt uncomfortable to me. I started to look into it and started to try some different things with our son. And lo and behold, he started to feel better. And those times of him not feeling well got less and less. And I started to make some changes with him, but make some changes in our household. And then I started to feel better. I was an exhausted mom of 4 kids and thought I was good and could do it all. And so I started to learn that if we pay attention to what we put in, on, and around ourselves and make some choices, some better choices in those areas that that our body feels better, our cells feel better, we look better, we feel better. I partnered myself with a company that's in the wellness space that I started to use a lot of their products, and I really liked their philosophy of science blended with nature. And so I knew I could trust these products, even though, again, I was learning it was such an unregulated industry. That's a short story of a very long 25 years. I've, again, stayed partnered with that company for 25 years. And really what I do is I help people create solutions and plans around supplementation, natural products, the things that I had learned, how to pay attention to what we put in on and around ourselves, and educate them on that so that they can make better informed choices if they want to do things a little bit more naturally.
And I love what you said earlier, that you were so skeptical. And I think that's how most people go into natural medicine or natural remedies. Like, you have this thought in the back of your brain thinking, oh, this is like woo-woo, this isn't going to help. And especially you having a medical background, I feel like a lot of doctors and nurses or people in the medical profession are a lot more resistant to these natural changes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because when you go through nursing school, medical school, there are studies, there are peer-reviewed studies, there are this big proof that this drug works, or there's been this study on this, and it's very unregulated. So it's one thing that, to try some things for yourselves, but then when you're starting to recommend them to your friends, I was a good consumer, as you would say, for a few years, just trying things out and learning, just kind of diving into that learning. And I continue to do that today. I mean, I went through a time with cancer a few years ago, and when that happened, I just dove into learning. Like, what can I learn more about in regards to metabolic approaches to cancer and the natural ways to remedy that and things like that. And there's a lot more information out there today than there was 25 years ago. People are so overwhelmed and they're confused because there is so much more out there. And who do you believe? The slick marketer or the medically trained? It's hard to know.
And even the medically trained aren't educated.
Right. I mean, we've talked about that. When we talk about menopause, I help a lot of women with perimenopause and menopause. They come to me and they're like, something's wrong. And I've learned through some of the documentaries I've watched that physicians just they're not trained in that. And they're trained in fertility and how to get the women to get their cycles and to create babies and things like that. I tell women, like, not every woman is going to choose to have a child or be able to have a child, but every woman's going to go through perimenopause and menopause.
Right.
And the doctors they don't have the solutions because they just weren't educated on that.
And it's unfortunate because they're dismissing so many women that really need their help.
Yeah. And oftentimes I hear it that they're recommending an antidepressant.
Yep.
That's what their solution is. Wait a minute. I'm not sure that solves what's happening with them.
It's so frustrating. I feel like a lot of women come to me the same thing. I went to my doctor, my labs are normal. I don't feel normal. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I had a gal over yesterday. I have a lovely front porch and it's summertime here. And I often meet people in coffee shops, but in the summertime, I'm like, just come meet me on my porch and we'll have a glass of water and lemonade or whatever and talk. And so she talked about her 4-year-old who has terrible sleep apnea. And they can't figure out. I mean, they're co-sleeping. They're all sleeping together. It's disrupting everybody's sleep, but they're trying to find solutions. Same thing. She said the labs are normal. They took out the adenoids and they can't seem to figure it out. And so I was encouraged when she said she's going to see a functional, holistic, natural doctor to try to see if they can, again, get to the root cause, dig a little bit deeper, which is what I love about functional medicine. Because oftentimes, like you said, the labs look normal. Things look normal.
Right.
But the women don't feel normal. The rules have changed. Things have changed. And so things have to be done a little bit differently.
And I think doctors look at only key markers. They don't look at the full picture. And functional labs can tell you a completely different picture than blood labs too.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that myself. The last couple of years, I've done more of those functional blood tests and then taken them. And my functional medicine physician, she goes over them and you find things that you just really sometimes aren't aware of. And for me, I know that some people don't want to look at those things. They just want to live their life. And I can appreciate that. Everybody has a choice. But I feel like I want to know the information and then I can make the choice. give me the information, give it all to me, explain it all to me. When I took my kids to the doctors when they were younger, like I said, I'm like in this place of perhaps going a more natural way, but explain to me why you would want this vaccination, why you would want me to do this. Explain it to me, and then please appreciate my choice that I make if it's against what you would recommend. But I want to be educated, and that's what I try to do in my own business, is educate people so that those labs can tell you more and more and more, because I just feel like the more we know, the better choices we can make.
And I feel like education is such a key piece, because people can go online, they can watch this influencer, that influencer, but you get so many mixed messages. So I think educating is key to helping somebody feel better and live an optimal life.
And again, an influencer can say this, a such and such can say this, but when you pull your own blood and do those tests, that's what's going on with you. And again, I was really thrown off guard when I got a breast cancer diagnosis, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing all the right things. But that's what functional medicine helped me discover, is just learning a little bit more about what I am doing to make some tweaks. And I was doing a lot of really good things, but there were some other things that I really needed to pay attention to, and I continue to pay attention to, that can, again, help me live a longer life full of thriving and cancer-free.
So what did you do naturally to help with cancer?
Well, I had a lumpectomy, and so I had it removed. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to try to be that hero that like shrinks it all. I mean, I'll take it out. And thankfully, I found a great surgeon here, and it was early stages, small, did have it removed, clear margins, no lymph node involvement. So great, very grateful for that. And then I saw a medical oncologist, but then she was recommending that I go to a radiation oncologist. And again, didn't make sense to me. I didn't want the radiation right by my heart. That's where my lump was. A couple of books that really made a huge difference and helped me learn. One of them called The Metabolic Approaches to Cancer, and then one that's called Radical Remission. But the Metabolic Approaches to Cancer kind of talks about kind of what I've been talking about for 25 years. It's about those underlying causes, like what are the root causes? And it talks about that we have many terrains in our body. So terrains like our microbiome, our stress, our sleep, hormones, and things like that. And then something is off in those terrains, and then it leads to the cancer development. And so that, again, made sense to me. And as I did the little evaluation or the quiz or whatever assessment they called in that book, and I kind of knew that it led towards a lot of stress in my life. And so I learned so much about that stress leading to hormone disruption with cortisol and blood sugar and things like that. And so I was learning a lot with that. And then I also read this Radical Remission and Radical Hope. And it is written by Dr. Kellyanne Turner, who did a lot of research and did a lot of interviews with people that had radical remission from some type of cancer, be it that they tried conventional, then they went to something else or a whole, and came up with 10 commonalities that these people had. Exercise, taking full control of your health, dietary changes, supplementation. So like 4. But the rest of them were like, as I call them, like mindset shifts. So things like deepening your spiritual practice, finding things that bring you joy, getting rid of things that don't serve you. And I'm 62, but I knew the life that I've lived was filled with stress, was filled with trying to do it all as a mom of 4 and an entrepreneur, perhaps trying to change people around me and encourage them to change and things like that, being a codependent, all of those things. And as I learned from reading these books, I was like, you know what? I think there's some things that I can do in regards to that. And Chris Wark, who is big in the cancer world, he's healed himself from stage 3 or 4 colon cancer. Chris Beats Cancer you'll find him out there. But he talks about the forgiveness practice and forgiving. And so I did a lot of forgiving, started with my own self. And we ended up moving. We sold our big house that we raised our kids in. We moved to a smaller house. We got rid of a lot of things. I went away for a couple of days and did a lot of meditating and praying. And that spoke to me, those things that I learned in those books, because I knew that the life that I'd lived. We had a daughter who had 9 years of a journey through an eating disorder, which we weren't sure if she would live. Right. There was a lot of stress around that. And so that's what I chose to do. I told the medical oncologist, I said, I'm going to wait on what you're recommending and I'm going to work on these things. And gone more natural with thermograms instead of mammograms and things like that. And I'm cancer-free today. I feel better than I have. And I continue to work on those things because it is a continual thing of dietary changes. And I wanted to try to be vegetarian, and then I wasn't getting enough protein. So I've added more protein back. So it's always a continual journey, but that's kind of an overarching. What I did was to really look at what do they talk about? They talk about genes and epigenetics, right? How genetics is a very small percentage in cancer development, although people believe it to be different. And it's really the epigenetics. It's our lifestyle that either turns those genes on or down regulates them. And so that's what I've chosen to do, is to make those changes in that area so that I can, again, have a better chance, if you will, of living a healthier, cancer-free life.
And I love that you went more into the mindset and the inner work, because I feel like a lot of us hold trauma in our bodies, or we have so much stress. And like you said, women, we feel like as moms, we have to do it all. We're basically control freaks because we're like, I got to do it all. Nobody can do it better than I can. The only way to get it done is if I do it. And I feel like I'm guilty of that too. But I feel like that stress creates such an impact negatively in our bodies. And by doing the inner work, that's awesome that you were able to heal your cancer.
And I tell people it's not easy work. I mean, I went away for retreats and did like hour-long breathwork meditations and walks in the forest and lots of journaling. But again, a gratitude practice and like, what is this here to teach me? And I realized I had to figure out where the cancers were in my life. That was a big realization during a meditation of mine. Not just this particular physical cancer, but where are all those cancers that are eating away at the joy in my life? Again, it's not easy work, but it's so freeing when you can get rid of those burdens, like you said, and the body keeps the score. I have the book right over there. You know, there are traumas stored in our bodies that when I started to learn about that, I'm like, that's weird, but it's not. I mean, it's it's woo-woo, right? For somebody that was raised conservative Baptist, and you start talking about all these spiritual things. But boy, what I encourage other women to do is just be open. I was so glad that I had people that made those suggestions to me years ago when I was dealing with my son who was sick and with my cancer. I have a friend who lives in France now. She said, get this book and read this. This is what helped me. I'm so glad that people made suggestions. And then what I encourage women to do is just be open to those suggestions. How does it sound to you? Like, look into it. Don't be so closed off to something that might seem uncomfortable for you now. It could be the best thing for you.
And I think just giving them permission to say, it's okay to try something new. And the best part about it is it's easy. It's free. You can add 5 minutes to your morning and journal or meditate or do breath work when you go to bed. There's so many great tools for us that are available, and we don't even have to leave the house.
Yeah, and you don't have to sign up for some membership and do there are simple, like you said, they're available to us with a great amount of ease if we're open to it.
All right, I want to shift gears because I want to talk about menopause, not just being hormones, about being the whole body transformation.
So many women come to me and they're like, something's going on and I feel like I'm crazy, or my skin is itchy, or I can't sleep, or I'm gaining weight. It's so many symptoms, right? And that's why it's very confusing, is because something that might not seemingly be related to your hormone shifting, it definitely is. I tell women, you're not broken. It's just, again, the rules have changed. When you start to get into perimenopause, when your hormones start to shift, things just start to change. And unfortunately, it goes on for a long time. I had a friend who called me last week and she had started to take some, drink some new tea or some shake or whatever. She's like, I think it caused my period to come back because I've been without a period for like 11 months. And I was like, well, maybe, but that's what happens. You think that you're into menopause and your cycle's not going to come back. Lo and behold, 11 months, it comes back.
That's pretty common.
It's pretty common, right?
Yeah.
Things change, and that means that we need to be aware and do things as women. We need to do things a little bit differently so that we can get through that period of time more comfortably.
And change is hard for most women, especially when we've been doing the same thing since our 20s and 30s.
But like exercise, when I think back to when I was raising my kids and a suburban mom and going to the health club every day and putting our kids in childcare and going to do our step workouts and then HIIT workouts came, and
Yep.
I started to be a long distance runner, and I would run with my friends, and we did half marathons and full marathons. And while that is okay during that time, as we get older, that is not what we should be doing. It's actually that type of stress. Again, we don't necessarily think about exercise as stress, but that's the wrong kind of stress for our body. We're better served in a yoga studio or going for a long walk with a friend and or our dog. And it takes adjusting to that, because as women, we're used to go, 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 go. We're going to go get our workout in and we're going to work really hard. And that's going to make us feel better. And in the end, it's doing more harm than good.
When I work with perimenopausal women too, I tell them, all right, you're going to stop the hard workouts and you're just going to walk. And they look at me and they're like, walk? Like, I need to do this. I'm like, just walk. Your nervous system is so taxed. Your cortisol levels are crazy high. You need to walk to calm your nervous system down so your body can heal.
That's something that I started to learn because I'm 62, and around my 50s is when I was going through menopause. And that was really when things were, it was just such a stressful time for us. And I was kind of getting through that perimenopausal phase. And then all of a sudden, periods were terrible, hot flashes. I'd have a conversation on the phone and it got a little like stressful and I'd have a hot flash. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But a nutritional mentor of mine started talking about that stress. She said, you're under an incredible amount of stress with what you're going through. Again, that's your cortisol is going up and like your adrenals are getting taxed. Women, again, if they're working, they're raising children, they're trying to do it all, our adrenals are getting so taxed. And because of that, as she taught me, like if I could start doing more of those meditating and slowing down, but also take some herbs to nourish those adrenals and pay attention to that stress. Right. And get into a better, because I had kind of gotten off track with my eating. Again, I had a daughter that had an eating disorder. And so I didn't want to do shakes and appear like I was cutting back. But a lot of those nutritional protein shakes that I was drinking, they had so many nutrients in there that my body needed. Yeah. And so I really started to I made those changes of eating better, taking my supplements, adding those particular herbs. And again, going for walks, meditating, praying more. And those symptoms went away, those really heavy symptoms. So it's really important that women start to understand that stress component. Because again, we're in our 45 to 55s when our perimenopause starts. And we've been living our life and raising our kids and working hard and things like that. And so that stress has accumulated. You talk about women like, okay, you got to walk. Well, oftentimes in menopause, right, they're starting to see a little bit more weight on them. And so they want to work out harder. And instead of that, it's like, how about you work out less, but add more protein? Pay attention to your protein. Pay attention to how much you're sleeping. These are all such important things to pay attention to in perimenopause, menopause. Our sleep, so we can restore, making sure that we're getting the best protein sources, making sure that we're hydrated, and then having some of those herbs, nutraceuticals, and things like that are going to help, like you said, regulate the nervous system better.
Another thing I do is I increase their good fats like butter, olive oil, avocado oil. And then I tell a lot of my women, instead of eating carbs, eat vegetables and consider that your carbs, because I feel like that shift, it's like then they don't feel so deprived, but then they're full and they don't feel like they have to constantly snack. Because I feel like perimenopause and menopause can bring on insulin resistance too. And then all of a sudden, why am I so hungry? Or I can't go more than an hour between eating. So if you increase your protein, fat, and vegetable content, you feel full longer.
Do you find that that's easy for women to increase vegetables? I find that so many they don't even know what to do.
I create nutrition plans for my clients. So I help them. I'll give them diet plans. Like, instead of eating this, you can have this instead. Because I feel like if you tell someone don't eat carbs, they're going to look at their kitchen and go, oh, well, what can I eat? Like, they'll freak out and they won't stick to it. So if you can say, okay, don't eat potatoes, but have extra broccoli or have some asparagus instead. Those are your carbs. I feel like giving them some useful tools, they're more likely to stick to a nutrition plan.
Yeah. And even I recommend just roast a bunch of vegetables, be it the broccoli, cauliflower, beets, asparagus, roast a couple of big pans of those. And then you have them in your fridge to heat up when you're wanting to grab the chips and salsa and just filling like half your plate with those vegetables. Like you said, it just makes such a difference in helping us feel full.
Because that's the thing. When perimenopause hits, insulin resistance increases. And so there goes our appetite and there goes the fat storage. So it's like a negative roller coaster.
I have a client who she just continues to bring that up and insulin resistance. And I'm like, yes. And what about these things that we talked about? Oh, I don't know. I just can't do that. I'm like, okay, well, but it's really, again, where to focus to try to create those habits. Just try, even if it's every other day, and then they become the habits.
And women have to be ready. I feel like if someone comes to you and they're not 100% ready, they're not going to stick to it. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, they have to want it.
That's right. And I'll share the stories of women that I've been able to help, that they were like this. And then these were the simple things that they started with. And because of that, this is how they're feeling. It helps a lot of us if we can hear something that sounds like, well, maybe then it's possible. Okay, that happened for her, then it's possible for me. Again, there's so much out there, like we talked about in the beginning. There's so much. And some people are like, well, should I do hormone replacement? Should I do this? Just educate yourself.
Right.
And there's no shame. And if you want to choose this or choose this, I mean, just, again, educate yourself and try things. Because I found that sometimes the recommendations that I've made for women have been really helpful. I think of my oldest sister years and years ago, and we were trying some natural things, and she was a pretty high level executive, and things were working for a while until they weren't. She said, listen, I have got to get on some hormone replacement therapy. These hot flashes, I mean, they were disturbing her day. She said, I had to take extra clothes to work. I had to change my blouses. Okay. And so for a period of time, that hormone replacement therapy really helped her. We have to find things that can help us. Again, there's no shame.
Well, and I think more education has come out about hormone replacement. Years ago, we were so afraid of it. And now I feel like it's becoming okay. You do have alternatives. You do have options now.
Right. And even within all of those type of options within hormone replacement, there's different things with vaginally, topically, orally. There's all kinds of options, and finding an expert that knows about that can do that. Because I'm assuming you do testing, like hormonal testing.
I do.
With women. Yeah. Yep. And just finding those experts that can do that testing so that you're not just guessing and throwing something at the wall and hoping that it sticks, or listening to some influencer that says this is the next best thing. Because if I've learned anything in my 25 years, everything doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
And even with cancer. Oh, the keto diet, you should be keto, you should be eating a keto diet. Oh, you should be completely vegan. I think there's something to be said for eating for your blood type. And again, the same thing's not going to work for everybody. So it's, again, back to that learning and trying and seeing what works for you and what you're comfortable with. Like you said, if the women aren't ready, it doesn't matter what we say.
So what would you tell your younger self about aging and menopause?
Well, I would say that it's inevitable, right? Aging is inevitable. Menopause is inevitable. And it's not the end. Menopause and aging really is this beautiful time, which again, the rules change. You need to do things differently. But it's a time for women that I think can be an exciting next chapter. Many times, depending on if you had children or when you had children, when you start to go through menopause, and you're getting through menopause, the kids have gotten through school, they've grown, they've moved on. Now is time for you to spend time with your husband and do extra travel, or maybe he hasn't retired, so maybe you're going to do some things yourself or find things. I found ballroom dance 5-6 years ago, and that's my fun hobby. I say that all the time. It's not the end. If you can work on some of these habits with your nutrition and exercise and sleep and things like that, you can feel better. But look at it as an opportunity, just a new chapter. And that it doesn't mean that it's the end, as much as the patriarchal system wants you to believe that, or they believe that. It's really not the end. It's really that next chapter. And it's a pretty exciting one where you have more freedom to do the things, to choose the things that you choose. I know a couple of women in the dance community that their husbands have passed. And so they found this place that they can have community and they can have fun, or they've gotten divorced. So things do happen as we get into those periods of time. I would definitely say you're not giving up. You're not closing the door and saying life is over. There is so much life to be lived once you get into that particular time of your life.
Right. So what's one thing our listeners can start implementing today?
I would say movement and hydration, making sure that you're hydrated. And sometimes it's more than just water. I always say, like, get up in the morning and start your day with water with a full lemon squeezed into it. That's a great thing that you can start your day with. It gets things going, if you will. It's a great way to get yourself hydrated in the morning and to start your day before you start putting the caffeine in. And I know you asked for one, but just get out and move. I've done more walking since I've moved to this new community a couple years ago than I ever have. We live in this world of sitting in front of our computers and working that way, and it doesn't serve us. So we got to get out and move. And when you call a friend and say, come walk with me, then you add that community and that connection piece of it, which is so lovely. There's a gal that just like 5 weeks ago, she decided to start a ladies walking group, and she called it Join Waves, because during her last 5 or 6 years of her life, there have been these waves. I'm just getting to know her, but I know she got divorced and just lots of things. And she said, you know what helped me is being connected with other women and walking. Yeah. She started these, and she just says, here, meet here. She has women that are just, we met last week in St. Charles. There was like 35 women that just showed up. We didn't know each other.
That's amazing.
We saw that. But women want that connection. And then we walked, and it's a lovely thing. So get out and walk, find a friend, and make sure you're getting hydrated.
I love that. That's great advice. Yeah. Moyra, how can everybody find you?
Well, I am quite active on social media, so you can find me with Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I do have a website, moyragorski.com, that you can find me as well. And I believe in the show notes, there's a link tree too that will go to the podcast that I host, the journal that I created. In addition to those things that I recommended, just finding somebody that can help you, somebody like you, somebody like me that can help them through that journey. And so there's some connection points there that you'll see in the show notes as well.
Exactly. Everything will be linked below so they can click and connect with you. Moyra, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love to have these conversations, and we need to have more of them.
Thank you for listening. Today we had on our special guest, Moyra Gorski. We talked about what women can do when labs look normal, but you don't feel normal, natural cancer remedies, menopause, and how to look at this next stage of life and find new things that bring you joy. Please check the show notes to connect with Moyra. Be sure to tune in next week to episode 38. I'll be back doing a solo episode talking about thyroid and hormones and how symptoms of both tend to overlap. You don't want to miss this one. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in. As estheticians, we have such a unique opportunity to not only care for the skin on the surface, but to guide our clients towards deeper wellness. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with me on Instagram @SkinDeepIL. I look forward to connecting with you there. And if you enjoyed this conversation, subscribing and reviewing the podcast helps others find these conversations too. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in.